Hey guys, welcome to this week's module, week 7. I wanted to walk you guys through exactly what we'll be doing for the next couple weeks here. So we have about 2 weeks before the Christmas break, and so we're going to do a quick unit on research, specifically how to conduct academic research, find credible and reliable sources that you can feel confident in sharing and using in an academic setting, right? So let me just show you exactly the project itself, and then we'll go from there, okay? So we read Into Thin Air, which is a book that really explains an extreme sport, which is mountaineering. And I thought it was kind of a fun kind of book to one of the reasons why it's fun is because you get to learn about something that you're probably not very familiar with. And so for this research project, we're going to do something similar. I mean, obviously you're not going to write a book or anything like that, but what you're going to do is you're going to research an extreme sport that you don't know much about, but maybe you're interested in. So if you look at here, the directions are pretty straightforward. You are researching to find credible, reliable sources. And then what you'll end up doing, let's look at this. So in the research project, you're going to answer questions that will explain your sport, right? So you're going to find sources that answer these 4 questions, okay? So the questions are pretty simple. What are the rules and regulations of your sport? So in other words, how does one play? What are some big events associated with your sport? And what do those events entail? So again, for our book that we read for mountaineering, a big event would have been, to climb Everest. Who are some major athletes or pioneers in your sport? And then how does one train to participate and excel at your sport, right? And then, so in the project itself, you need to have 4 different sources, and you need to cite those sources in MLA format. And so this week, we only need to find 1 because I'm kind of giving you, this week you have time to find which sport you want to research more in detail, as well as, again, then from there you'll just find 1 source, and then next week we'll find 3 sources. So pretty straightforward there. So this week we're going to focus on finding a source from Utah Online Library. Next week we'll focus on finding sources from a credible website as well as a video. And then you're going to create we won't be doing this necessarily this week, so don't really worry about this week, but ultimately this project is going to be a presentation where you create a PowerPoint or a Google Slides, and you present that to the class, okay? So keep your eyes on that. Like, that's the idea. Like, that's going to be the culmination of the project, is where you do all this research, then you create a PowerPoint, and then you present it to the class. So that's kind of the nitty gritty of the assignment, and I'll get into this stuff in just a second. But that's the assignment. So the very first step you'll need to do for this assignment is pick exactly what it is you want to do. So you would just come to the assignment that says, go to week 7, it says research choice. What you'll do, this is like quick research. Like, this isn't finding credible sources research. This is just trying to learn about your sport really quickly. So I have a list of theoretical extreme sports that you could research here. You'll research 5 different sports. You'll tell me what you learned in 2 to 3 sentences for each of them. And you'll give me the source, and the source you'll wiki link, you'll just link it. You'll copy it and paste the URL. And then at the bottom, you'll tell me which one you want to do and why. So which sport you want to research more. So you'll just click on this list here. It's just a Wikipedia list. And you'll scroll down to this list of extreme sports. There's quite a bit. And then you'll pick which one you actually want to do. And again, you don't have to do one of these. If you thought of something that's not here, feel free to do that one. Okay, so that's pretty the nitty gritty of this assignment. But I wanted to walk you guys through today exactly how to find your first source. So again, if you go back to this assignment, the very first source we're going to be finding this week is one from Utah Online Library or JSTOR. And so some of you probably have used Utah Online Library in the past, but others of you haven't. But here's the idea. You're going to find a source from Utah Online Library or JSTOR that answers one of these questions. What are the rules and regulations of your sport? Some big events, major athletes. or how does one train to participate and excel in your sport? So basically, you have 4 questions and you have 4 different sources. So the idea would be, theoretically, you would find a source that answers one of those questions. So a different source answers each of those questions. So we're starting with Utah Online Library because A, it's really easy to find credible sources from Utah Online Library or JSTOR. But B, it's also you're gonna find the probably the least amount of information about your sport from there. So it's good to start there and see what sources can answer those questions that we need to answer in the class. Okay, so that's where we'll start. We'll start in Utah Online Library. So if you look down here, this document that you guys will make a copy of, this document is where you'll be keeping all of your information that you learn, right? So for each, so if you look here, you'll find, here's 4 different sources that you'll need to find, and for each of the sources, you're going to tell me what question that source answers, the information you got from that source, and then the source itself that you cite in MLA format. So here's my example right here. I have the information here. So in the information, if you look here, your information needs to be 7 to 10 sentences and needs to have 2 components. A summary of the article. So that's right here. Here's my summary of the article. And then how you plan on using the article in your presentation. So this right here is how I plan on using the article in my presentation. And then I have the source right here, and it needs to be in MLA format, which I have right here. Okay, so those are the kind of the 3 things you need to do for each of these sources. You need to pick the question that the source answers. You need to give me a summary of the article. You need to tell me how that article is going to be used in your presentation, and you need to have a source. Okay, make sure you have plenty of information here because I grade that pretty strictly. Okay, so going back, so the first source you're going to find is a Utah Online Library source, and it needs to answer one of these 4 questions. So I'm going to go to Utah Online Library. To get there, I've linked it into your the overview page. So you just click on the week 7 overview and you click on this link right here, and then you see the username is online and the password is database. So you'll need that if you're not on the school network, so keep that in mind. So you click on student login, again online, and then database. Okay, and then you'll just log in here. That didn't work. 1 second. Okay. So you log in here, and then a whole bunch of these different databases come up. So the thing I think you need to understand about Utah Online Library is what they do is they give you access to a whole bunch of different academic databases that theoretically you'll use in college. An academic database is basically, you can't put a source or an article on these academic databases without having it peer reviewed, done by a researcher or a scientist or a historian or a teacher or whatever. So not just anybody can post into these databases. So the information that you're getting from these sources are automatically reliable and academic. So that's something that's why they're really useful. So for this assignment in particular, we're going to use 3 different databases. We're going to use World Book Online, Yale Reference Collection, or in EBSCO High School. Okay, so you only need to find 1 source from one of these databases. Let me repeat that. You only need to find 1 source from one of these databases. Okay, so they're all a little bit different. World Book Online is an online encyclopedia. Gale and EBSCO are pretty similar. They bring up a whole bunch of different articles and studies. But World Book Online is the biggest difference because it's mostly encyclopedia. So I always think World Book Online is a good place to start to see if they have any information on your sport, and they might not. But you just click on World Book Online, it opens up another link. You click on student, and then you get here, and then you research your sport. So if my sport was, let's take a look at the sports here. Let's say your sport is mountaineering, right? Because we just learned about that. So I would just come here and I would type in mountaineering and see if anything pops up. So they have mountain climbing. They have some guy named Jeffrey Withrow. So it doesn't look like, I don't really see anything that's really gonna help me when it comes to mountaineering. I can change the word to say alpining because that's another sort of term. Nope, that didn't work either. I can look up Mountaineer and see if anything comes from there. So some different stuff. So basically what I can say is that World Book Online isn't a great source for my sport, but it might be different. So for example, if you did like ultra marathon, I think they have stuff on that. Maybe they don't actually. Right, so you might run into stuff and you might not. Because again, because it's an academic database, it might have less information. But again, the information that you give in these databases are credible. But World Book Online, for me, isn't a great place. So that's one possibility. I can click on Gale Reference Collection in high school, click on Power Search, and then I can research here. So it's pretty simple as well. Again, you just look up your source or your sport and see if anything comes up. Right, so I looked up Mountaineer, and then if you look up here, it has the different results. So it can be a magazine, academic journal, etc. And then I can look for my sources from here. So maybe I want to just look for the news and see if they have anything about mountaineers. And maybe I want to specify it to mountaineering and see if anything else comes up, right? So those are different ideas. But you should be able to find something about your sport. And then after you find an article that you feel like might answer one of those 4 questions, you'll pick the question and answers, and then you will write down your information here, the summary of the article, so you have to read the whole article, and then how you plan on using it in your presentation, and then you'll cite that source in MLA. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward this week. You just need to find one source this week, and it needs to be either a Utah Online Library source or a JSTOR source. JSTOR is that you'll use it the exact same way. You'll just click on the link here, you put in the username and password, and then you'll go from there. If you have questions, come into class. I'm going to be walking students through it. I'll be overviewing research. And so if you need that help, come into class, or you can email me, and I can answer those questions here. But again, pretty simple. We're starting a new project. So I would read my instructions in more detail here, and then look at my example and go from there. Okay. But first thing you'll do this week is you'll find a sport to research, and then you'll find one source from either Utah Online Library or JSTOR to answer that source. Okay. Hope you guys have a good week, and let me know if you need any help.